What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here, fresh out of the car from the Midwest Monster. 5 hours in the car, grabbed a little dinner, settled in to record the Sunday weekly video. Like, comment, subscribe. You guys and girls know the drill. I will hold full thoughts on the Monster for probably tomorrow's video. I'll go over pickups, which I just made a couple. Honestly, I only made 2 pickups, both purchases. No trades were made or anything like that, so spoilers, I guess. We'll go over those in a separate video tomorrow, and at the same time, I'll just kind of give some vibe thoughts. We'll touch on some stuff as we kind of work throughout the video here, because some things that I heard and saw we'll kind of pull into when we get into the charts and graphs section of the old video. First, shout out to anyone and everyone that came up and said hello this weekend. Met a lot of cool people, both old and new. Some old faces that I've run into at other shows now, like Ship Shawana and Xenia, the National even, and some other ones. So for the returning friends of the channel that came up and said hello, and for people that I have not had a chance to put a face with a name, shout out to all of you. It's always fun when you get recognized by the sound of your voice. Just never thought that would be a thing that I would be part of my life, is that people would recognize me by the sound of my voice. Not that that's a bad thing. Got to hang out and talk to a bunch of my fellow content creators. Saw Ryan from Card Collector 2 very briefly at his table. He was pretty busy. Talked to Ryan from Breakout Cards. I believe I might get edited out. We'll see. A quick appearance in his vlog. Talked to him at trade night, and then saw him a couple times on the show floor. Talked to my main man Kenny Fornos for at least a handful of times at both days of the show and at the trade night. Talked to Roth and Taxi for a little bit at their table and at trade night as well. Watched a couple deals go down with those guys. There was, and like I said, I don't want to get too deep into this. There was a lot of big names at this show. Like I said, Ryan was there, Card Collector 2. Mojo was there. Costa Cards was there. RBI Crew was there. Just, it goes on and on and on. There was a lot of headliners there, and this was competing with the Chicago Sports Spectacular. Curious, in the comments down below, let me know, a couple different things, because I'll maybe incorporate this into tomorrow's video. If you were at the Chicago Sports Spectacular, what was the vibe like with this going on? I heard very mixed things about the Chicago show because it felt like the indie show was kind of stealing a lot of the thunder. But if you were at the Chicago show this weekend, let me know how things went in the comments down below, how it was, what the vibe was. And then also, if you were at the Midwest Monster, whether I saw you or not, let me know how that show turned out for you in the comments down below as well. And to be quite frank, any show. If you guys went to any show, guys and girls, went to any show this weekend, Raleigh show I know was going on, Dustin and Steve were at that. Just what was the show scene like this weekend for you all? I did that video on Friday, and I actually got a lot of positive feedback about that video in regards to people really enjoyed it, both in the comments and in DMs, and a lot of people in person. Both dealers, talked to a lot of dealers this weekend that happened to watch the channel or mention stuff as I walked around that said, hey, you're Neo, right? Or, hey, you're Rob, right? And, yep. That had watched that video when we're echoing a lot of the sentiment that I had in that video. So, like I said, I don't want to get too far down this path. I'll save it for tomorrow's video. But if you hit a show this weekend, in the comments down below, what show did you hit? What were the vibes like for you? Were you buying? Were you selling? What were you seeing people doing? If you were a dealer set up, how did that go for you? Very curious for that information in the comments down below. There were some people in the comments of that video that were not happy about that video. People commenting on, the general negativity vibe around content creators and how we can negatively impact the market because of it. Listen, maybe we can, maybe we can't. I honestly don't know. Could I move the price of a card by saying it's undervalued or make it go up? Yes, I know I could do that because it happened to me a long time ago when I used to do more like, hey, you should go buy this and that card. I haven't done videos like that in probably over a year at least. But I have 100% shifted the price of a card before, maybe only once. I don't know, but I know of at least one time that I am pretty sure that I did. Kyler Murray card that I've talked about before on the channel. Can I downshift the value of an entire market? No, I don't think I have that kind of power. Let's not get crazy here. But there is a general sentiment among content creators with more, I guess if you want to say, negative sports card market style content. Listen, boys and girls, it's not great out there right now. If you want me to tell you that it's all sunshine and rainbows and kittens jumping over, rainbow bridges, that's not what's happening out there. So I'm not going to make content that says that's what's happening out there. I'm going to actually talk about what is going on and what I am seeing and hearing, both in person with my own 2 eyes and 2 ears, and also what various people are telling me. Like I said, I've kind of made a loose friend group of some dealers that slide into my DMs once in a while to just kind of give me little vibe checks and see people in person and, word on the street, and just talking to other content creators and people that attend shows and just friends that I've made in the local show circuit, etc. And these are the things that we're talking about. And I'm going to pass that information along. That's the point of the channel. It's why I do this. Part of the reason why I do this is to, just kind of talk about the journey through the card world. And that's what's going on in the card world right now. It's not super great out there from a buying to flip perspective. And you know what? That's okay. It doesn't have to always be like that. But on the flip side, I'm gonna speak what's actually going on out there. I'm not gonna either not talk about it. Some people were like, hey, just don't make the video. Well, that's almost as bad as just ignoring it completely. If I ignored it completely, people would be all over me about, hey, why aren't you talking about how this is crashing or this isn't doing great or how people aren't spending cash anymore? Or if I made a video saying it's unicorns and kittens out there, people would be all over me being like, what the hell are you talking about? So, and I know it was only a handful of comments in the thing, but I just kind of wanted to talk about that and the reason why I made the video and why I'll continue to make stuff like that. If things are not going great, I am going to do content that says things are not going great, because that's what's going on out there. If things start picking up and things are great again, then when I do videos like that, I will be talking about how great things are going on, the card market side of things. Now, on the positive side, you can get some pretty good deals out there for cards that you have probably been looking for a while. Now might be a good opportunity to jump into something that, you didn't think you could afford before. Maybe it falls into your lap now. If there was a PC card you've been waiting for, or a specific card that you've had your eye on for a while and been like, oh man, that's just way too expensive at 4K. It might be 2K now. It might have used to have been 2K and now maybe it's 500. Who knows? Depending on the card, some stuff's taking a pretty good beating. So people that, just want it for the joy of collecting, their prices coming back down again they're probably pretty happy about that. And in the long run, if you're in it for the long run, if you're buying the correct cards or cards that you think have good long-term potential, then you're probably going to be just fine. So just everyone needs to just take it down a notch. Everyone just relax. Just relax. Like I said, drove 5 hours to Indiana. I bought 2 cards, sold 1 card. If you looked at the spreadsheet, it's a loss. But guess what? I had a hell of a good time. I hung out with friends for 2 straight days, met a lot of people for the first time, reunited with some old friends that, in relationships that I've made over the last couple years doing this. It was a good time. That's all that really matters. That's what actually matters in this whole wide world. I took 2 days. I spent some cash. Hung out with some people, had a great time. What else can you ask for? Let me go ahead and step off the old soapbox there. Chat about some newsy stuff. There was some newsy stuff that we missed. This is already trending towards being a very long video. First up, PSA. They more opened up value service. Value service, they remove the restriction on value service being a 20 card minimum. You can now send as little as you want. You can send 2 cards if you want to. That tells me that they probably didn't get as many cards as they initially wanted to, or not enough to fill up the amount that they want to get to prime that pump of, as we've been talking about. So interesting that they remove that, and fairly quickly, honestly. So I have to imagine a bunch of, maybe base Prism. Who knows? That opens the door for a lot of things. If people only have to send onesie, twosies off, it also makes it that you don't necessarily have to go through a group submitter. You could just send it yourself, which is nice for the people that want to do that. So that was one thing that happened. Fanatics, new CEO. He's a TV guy, doesn't really have a whole lot of card background. He is the new CEO of Fanatics. Luber is still there as the chief visionary officer and still has Zero Cool as his pet project. I don't know this guy. I don't know much about this guy. We'll see what happens as the whole Fanatics thing kind of flushes itself out here over the next few months and years. But I'm not going to sit here and pontificate on some direct impact that this is going to have on distribution models or something crazy like that, because I don't think anybody really knows. Well, someone knows, but no one in this space actually knows what is going to be going on there. So we're all just guessing. Beckett CEO, we've talked about already. Prism retail has dropped in mass this week. We talked about that earlier this week. There was estimates of 200,000 blaster boxes being released on that wave. As I talked about, I have some Fanatics exclusive blasters coming. That product continues to be pretty hot. The Facebook groups are mad about retail flippers wiping out shelves at Walmarts and Targets around America. So all is right in the world once again. I think that ends my preamble. So let's go ahead and dive into some charts and graphs. And once again, we'll kind of work in some stuff, some vibe checks from the Midwest Monster as we kind of work through some of this stuff, at least on the football side of things. So let's go ahead and dive into Market Movers. Link in the description down below if you want to check it out. Coupon codes, the whole 9 yards. First up, let's talk football. Football was the one thing that was asked about the most around the room at trade night everywhere. Specifically, Burrow, Herbert, and Allen. Those are the 3 names. If you're going to the National, probably load up on those 3 names. Or you could zag and maybe move them right before the National. Between now and the National, maybe just move off of them. Go against the grain a little bit on that one. I'm not sure if everyone actually wants to own Allen, Burrow, and Herbert, or if everyone just wants to own them to move them in a month and a half at or around the National at the beginning of football season. If that's the case, I would move off of them sooner rather than later, because when the dump happens, I hate using the pump and dump term, but it's not really a pump and dump, but just when the dump happens, when people go to unload this stuff come the beginning of summer, or late summer rather, around the National time, around the Hall of Fame game, which usually everyone wants to move out of their football, are there actually still going to be buyers there with open arms wanting this stuff? Maybe there are. Those 3 guys are very popular, and a lot of people do think they are the second coming, but we all saw how that worked out with the group of guys from last year, with Mahomes, and Allen did stay. Mahomes took a beating. Baker Mayfield took a beating. Lamar Jackson took a beating in prices last year because they all underperformed, except for Allen. So there's decent chance there's a repeat of this again. So there's an interesting case to be made that you just move off this stuff sooner rather than later, or, play chicken and wait and move it at the National. I have 1 Burrow. It's an orange disco color match, and 1 Herbert blue scope color match. I had those out at trade night. Almost every person that walked past the table asked about them. I was pretty firm on them, and on trade, I was going to be pretty particular on them, and I didn't see anything that I wanted to move them for at trade night or on the show floor for that matter. So I just tucked those back away in the case, and I guess I'm going to be one of those people potentially playing chicken, because I do not want to come home with those 2 cards from the National. So those are the 3 hot names by far. There are other names that are hot as well, but those are the 3 getting the most hype, and you could see it in the indexes to a degree. When we look at the football index, the blue line is ultra modern, which includes all 3 of those guys, and you can see that market, this is going back 30 days, has stayed relatively flat. It's only down 2%. while as the modern-ish market, not ultra modern, the 2010 to 2017 is down 10%. And a lot of that dip has just happened in the last 30-ish, or I'm sorry, the last like week or so. You could see this big whoop, little big drop there, almost an 8% drop there over the course of about a week. So the ultra modern is carrying the football market right now, and those guys are very liquid. Now, the interesting thing, let's go a step deeper on this because I was curious. This is Josh Allen's base prism, base optic, and optic hollow. Once again, we don't use silver prisms for this because silver 2018 prisms are unicorns. They're usually under pop 30. They're extremely rare. So they're just not a good indicator of what's going on because they don't sell often enough. But the two base sets and the optic hollow, I think, are a pretty good judge when you're looking at 2018. I went back to March 1st, a little bit after the Super Bowl, but before the NFL offseason truly kind of starts spinning up, to kind of see what prices have looked like over the last almost 3.5 months on that stuff. Allen base prism up 10%, base optic up 10%, optic hollow down 6%. So that's a little interesting. The optic hollow is only pop 190, so it's pretty rare. The base prism, and do keep in mind, yeah, we're talking base prism, but the pop counts on 18 base prism are actually pretty low. That product was printed and released before everything went haywire. So there's not actually a lot of this stuff on the population report. There's a lot of them, but there's not a lot of them in the grand scheme of things. Base Allen, the population on that, and this is Prism base, is only 1,500 on his PSA 10. That's why it still goes for $600 and is still a pretty liquid card because there's not a lot of great options because there is no, not that there's no silver, but those are so crazy to get that, you know, it allows the silver or the base to be the more common man card. The base optic pop 1,300, very close to the Prism Silver, sells for $475, almost $500. Once again, base football does extremely well, especially from 2018. Let's look at the 2020 crew. Burrow, Herbert. I threw Tua and Hurts in here just to kind of get the full picture. And we're doing the same thing again. Optic Prism, base hollow, and I did throw silvers in on this one because the population counts are a little bit higher. Also, base pop counts are way higher on these comparatively. Remember, on Allen base prism, we were talking about pop 1,500. On these, whole different story. Herbert is just under 4,000. Burrow is just over 4,000 on their base. So keep that in mind when you're chasing that stuff. Same time frame here, March 1st through today. Once again, just trying to get a feeling for how that stuff has performed. Burrow Silver PSA 10 Prism, $2,800 card, down 6%. Burrow Base Prism PSA 10 pop 4,300, down 30%, $250. Once again, that card looks extremely reasonable because there's a lot more of them out there compared to the Allen. So just keep that in mind when you're comparing cross years like that. Tua Silver up 39%, Tua Base up 73%. Herbert Silver up 14%, Herbert Base flat. Jalen Hurts up 32% on his silver, 20% on his base. So what do we notice there? Burrow took a bigger beating, not surprising because his stuff got a little overinflated because of the Super Bowl appearance. Herbert, while up, isn't up a ton. Only a 14% swing on his silver prism, and his base prism is actually flat. But once again, the population count on that is pretty high. Tua and Hurts get the big bump up because they had major shifts in status. Hurts got A.J. Brown. Tua got Tyreek Hill, which really juiced his cards. On the optic side of things, we see a pretty similar pattern. Burrow optic base got hit a little harder, down 20%. Optic hollows down 21%. Those are only going for $600, pop 670 on those. Tua base down 15%. Hollow has stayed flat. Herbert base optic up 5%. Optic hollow down 10%. Hertz, Optic Base up 20%, Optic Hollow up 27%. So Optic has definitely performed much poorer compared to its Prism counterpart when it comes to the 2020 class, other than Hertz. But once again, we see Herbert, though everyone wants him, his prices aren't going up. They're just maintaining, which I guess in a world where everything's dropping by 1,000,000,000% every day, just holding steady is actually pretty good. So kind of keep that in mind when you're thinking about his stuff. So the demand is there, and I think that demand has basically kept his prices from going down, along with everything else slightly shifting down over the last couple months in the card world. Will they hold? Who knows? He could come out and start hot, and his prices could soar if he comes out of the gate hot, like Kyler Murray did a couple years ago. If he comes out of the gate and struggles, even the best quarterbacks can struggle, his stuff could fall and fall quickly. It did last year. His stuff came down in price during the season last year. That you could have picked stuff up at a very decent rate in the middle of the season, and then he kind of rallied, and then they got eliminated from the playoffs. So we'll see what happens with Herbert as things go throughout. But those are the three that everybody wants. People, like I said, people want other guys too, but those are the three names you hear more than anybody else. Basketball. Basketball is a mess right now. This is the modern and ultra modern market indexes. This is over the last 30 days. Ultra modern is down 14%. Modern is down 15%. So that's all the way back from 2010 to 2020 is basic, because both indexes are basically down the same pretty much, or basically down 14.5% across that decade of basketball cards. It has been hit very hard lately. And it was the most overinflated in regards to pricing, so it has the most to correct back to. The NBA Finals have ended. Let's look at a couple key players from that. Steph Curry, his tops base got a little bit of a bump, as we've talked about in the past. Just because you win a championship doesn't mean your prices go to the moon. His tops base, and this is the non-chrome version, PSA 10s were selling for $9,500 right before they won. They did have a nice run-up leading up to the actual title. Then one sold for $10K, and then the night that they won, two sold for $10.1. There has not been a sale since. Now, the interesting part is the PSA 9, you actually see the same thing. It was down under $2K a couple days before. They won, it spiked at 2.2, and then one actually has sold since, but it sold for $200 less. I don't like using one-offs too much, but this card doesn't transact a ton. But it is interesting to see the 9 immediately pull back, and I wouldn't be surprised the next 10 that sold if it sold lower than these two here. Overall, and I took this back, I went kind of a weird number on this one. I went back to May 30th, so it's basically 3 weeks, just shy of 3 weeks. The PSA 10's up 24% in that time. The PSA 9 has not moved. You're also seeing a pretty wide gap there in price. That's basically a 5x price. But the pop count is pretty skewed. Pop on the PSA 10 is 365. Pop on the PSA 9 is just shy of 1,300. So it's not a traditional where the pop counts kind of even out or they're close. There's a pretty big skew there. So it kind of explains why the big price gap between a 9 and a 10 on that one. Moving along, Klay Thompson. His prices have actually gone down quite a bit. This is the same exact time range as the Curry, and this is his PSA 10 and PSA 9 Prism. PSA 10 is down 11%. PSA 9 is down 24%. So the title did nothing for him. Jordan Poole. This is a silver PSA 10 and PSA 9 Prism. Shocking, this didn't last the big run up there. This card is now down to $400 in a PSA 10. $120 in a PSA 9. Overall, it's up from, if you go back, I went back to March 20th on this one, so a full 90 days. He's obviously up quite a bit. This card will continue to fall as the market cools on Poole, and as we've discussed in the past, everyone and their sister is going to be running out to grade these things to try to flip them. So there's going to be a lot more supply coming onto the market as well. So keep that in mind. You should have moved. You had an opportunity here to move Jordan Poole, basically from Really 420 until almost May 21st. You probably could have done pretty good. That's not me even cherry picking the couple peak sales. So you had your window of opportunity. I do think it continues to go lower. So if I was still holding pool, especially common stuff, I would potentially think about moving out of it. Next, Jason Tatum. Ooh boy, ooh boy, ooh boy. The Tatum market is looking pretty ugly. I went back 30 days on this. This is Prism and Optic, base, hollows, silvers, and I threw in the old green, a channel favorite. A lot of red. His silver in the last 30, or what is it, 30 days? Yeah, 30 days. His silver in the last 30 days, so that's since May 19th, is down 42%. His PSA 10 silvers are doing 1,100. PSA 9s are down 30%. Base is down 30%. As I kind of scroll down this list, everything other than the green PSA 9, and the greens don't transact a ton, and not one has sold recently, so we don't have a real good idea on what that's currently sitting at. But everything else has dropped 30 to 40% on Tatum just in the last 30. And I think it continues to go lower. How bad was the shoulder? I don't know. They're saying it wasn't super bad. It was a pinched nerve or something like that. I was hoping it would come out that it was a separated shoulder, so it would be something a little bit more serious that you could pin it on. But that doesn't seem to be the case, at least this point, unless they're hiding something. I still really like Tatum. I do think he was hurt, obviously. And I think that did affect him. He's still only 24 years old and a really good player. I would potentially be waiting in open arms for a big Tatum dip. If his stuff got cheap enough, he would be one that would potentially go on my shopping list for the National. So we'll see if that actually happens. Maybe he bounces back before that. I don't know. But I had pretty good success last year at the National buying basketball. That seemed to be a nice low point for basketball. Baseball, we'll just go ahead and skip baseball this week. There's not a ton happening in that market. We can look at the market pulse real quick. This is over the last 30 days. Ultra Modern's down 8%. Modern is down 14%. I will say Ultra Modern got a little spike up here the last couple days. I don't know if that'll hold or not. We'll see. I'm not even really sure what's driving that. Baseball, at least from my perspective, at the Midwest Monster was not super hot. I didn't mention it with basketball. There's a lot of Curry stuff out, but generally speaking, it was mostly people already looking for football. We'll talk about some more basketball related stuff regarding the Monster tomorrow. But baseball wise, there was a lot of, I actually saw Soto first Bowman's out at the show. His stuff continues to take a little bit of a beating. I think it's kind of leveled out to a degree, but I'm still a little hesitant. I actually almost traded for a first Bowman, or thought about making a play for a first Bowman with cash involved, and decided to pass on it. Just because I do think there's a decent chance that card, I think best case scenario, it stays flat. Worst case scenario, it maybe ticks down a little bit more, and that's a card I could find at the National pretty easy. So I decided to keep my powder dry on that one. But the baseball market's still just been kind of meh so far this season. We kind of talked about it last week. If I blow this thing back 90 days to mid-March, and you go and look at the indexes, Ultra Modern is down 26%. Modern is down 20%. So the baseball market has definitely taken a beating as we've entered into the season. We will see where it goes from there. I heard Tatis the other day. Didn't necessarily have a setback, but is not as far along as they would like. So, you begin the question of, well, when do we eventually see him? We're getting, there's still, I guess, a lot of time left in the season. He could still potentially make a comeback, but what does he look like when he comes back? Does his stuff spike? There was a lot of Tatis out in cases this week. So we'll see. We shall see. So once again, in the comments down below, if you attended shows this weekend, throw the vibes down. What show were you at? What were the vibes? What did you do? Were you a dealer? Were you a walker? Pick stuff up. What did you see moving? What wasn't moving? So on and so forth. Good information for all of us to share and review. Tomorrow, we will be reviewing Midwest Monster pickups and just some general show thoughts. And then later this week, I have maybe a box opening. I know that sounds crazy. I got a box of 2022 Bowman Sapphire. It dropped on Topps' website, so I got it for retail, $200. I was actually going to keep it sealed and just sit on it, but the box came in the mail. And if you follow me on Twitter, if you don't, it's in the description down below, Neo_cards_comics. I tweeted a picture of this. It came damaged. As soon as I picked the box up when I got home from the Midwest Monster, it was crunched. And then when I opened it up, the inner box, the actual box of Bowman Sapphire, was crunched as well. I don't know if the packs were affected or not. I emailed Topps. My guess is they're not going to do anything. So I'm probably just going to end up ripping this now and kind of see what happens. Sometimes these damaged boxes are lucky. We'll see if that's the case on this one. That will be an interesting rip because I'll be honest with you, I have no idea who any of these guys are. So if you want to watch someone clueless open a box of 2022 Sapphire, I'm your man. Maybe I'll do it live. I don't know. We'll see. So that's the only couple things that I know for sure on the docket for this week. But as always, I will come up with some other juicy little tidbits to chat about. With all that being said, smash the like button if you haven't. Subscribe if you're not. Questions and comments, leave them down below. And we will catch you guys and girls on the next one. Peace.